Welcome back for part two of breaking down the lawsuit against the Department of Education. We are breaking down the lawsuit the American Federation of Teachers has brought against the Department of Education. And one thing about this lawsuit that's extremely important, and not only just the importance of it, but just the information that's in it, is that if you are someone, if you've ever wondered, what actually happens when big organizations sue the Department of Education, read these lawsuits, because in this lawsuit, not only does it's a complaint against the Department of Education, but it tells us a number of things as a student loan borrower, as a federal student loan borrower in these lawsuit, or in this particular lawsuit. What it tells you, it shows you the systematic failures of the Department of Education. Not only that, it shows you how federal student loan programs are being managed. And then two, it also shows you what your rights are as a borrower. And not only that, what I like about reading the lawsuit is that it shows you that if you are someone that has been harmed by the Department of Education, what laws are actually being utilized, what the complaint actually states for this organization to bring suit against the department. So I've actually been breaking this lawsuit down in multiple sections, multiple videos. So this is part two, where we are going to be getting into the background of the complaint. Basically, it's going to tell us about the history, the reason why they brought suit against the Department of Education. I did do a previous video. Part one is where I covered the preliminary statement. You can go back a video and you'll be able to read or get the information about that. Okay. All right. Before we get started, let me introduce myself again. My name is Tammy Arrington. I am the owner of Tammy A1 Consulting LLC. I am a credit and student loan educator, and I love reading lawsuits. It's fun, it's educational. And not only that, it just helps borrowers. It helps myself as a federal student loan borrower, as well, to make sure that I understand my rights, and then also how to help others as well. All right, let's get started. We're going to go directly to the information. Nothing that I provide today constitutes any type of financial or legal advice. We're going to go to the source of information. So that way, if you later want to go back and take a look at all of it, you're able to. All right. And plus, I'm going to post it down in the notes. Okay. All right. Let's get out of here. Let's go back. So for the lawsuit is on Court Listener. So if you, or you can Google it. Some people find it in other places. I like to go to Court Listener because it's easier for me to read. And then two, with the complaint, you're able to see it broken down in phases, because this complaint actually was filed back on the 18th of March, 2025. So the complaint that we're looking at is a amended complaint, because there's always something that's happening with the Department of Education. They're always doing something. But you're able to go back, and if you go to Court Listener, you can just type in American Federation of Teachers versus the Department of Education. You'll be able to see it, or just put the case number in here, okay? But this is where you'll be able to see the timeline. So you'll see the original complaint here. And not only that, everything that has happened throughout the time since this lawsuit was initially filed. And it takes you up into current. As of April, starting in April, under the original complaint, what the American Federation of Teachers wanted was for the Department of Education to provide status reports. And that was basically showing what exactly it is that they're doing when it comes to income-driven repayment plans, the PSLF buyback application. I want to know where you are in that process, because we know the Department of Education, the staffing has been gutted tremendously. So there's a backlog just about of every application, okay? But this is where you're able to go back and look at that, so that way you can get that history on how slowly the Department of Education has been moving, okay? But we're gonna go down here. If you get down here to the 15th, this is where you're able to see, I'm sorry, on the 9th, this is where you're able to see that amended complaint. And this is what we are going to be covering. I do have a video where I covered the main complaint. Go back a few, you'll be able to see that. But we're doing the amended complaint that was filed on the 9th of September. There was also a status report showing where the Department of Education is with the processing of income-driven repayment plans, applications, buyback requests, all of that. You want to go look at that to see where they are, what the status is. You can go here and click on that document and download it. Okay. All right. So let's get into the lawsuit. Okay. All right. So this is what I'd already covered in a previous video. This has already been covered. So when I said the preliminary statement, this is right here is with the basis. So this is where I've already covered that in a previous video. Go back one, you'll be able to see it. It'll say the same thing. It'll look exactly like this is what the face of the video is. Let me show you so you know exactly what you're looking for. So it'll say, let me bring that over here so you can see exactly what it is. So this is what you'll see. It'll say part one, preliminary statement. Okay. So that's how you know that you are in the actual part one. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. So let's get down into the background. All right, so we're going to scroll down. And this is where we are. We are in background. And this is where it's just basically going to tell us the historical details, explaining the why in a sense, okay? So get started with background, income-driven repayment plans. And this was actually a good read because if you aren't really, versed in income-driven repayment plans, this information here gives you the history of income-driven repayment plans. Not only that, it gives you the section of law that's connected to the income-driven repayment plan that you may already be in. So that way you can go back and read the law or the statute, the regulation that is connected to it, okay? So it tells us in 1965, Congress enacted the Higher Education Act because every citizen is entitled to an education to meet his or her full potential without financial barriers. And it gives us the section of law 20 USC 1221-12, and that's more or less the General Education Provisions Act. But in other words, Congress aimed to increase educational opportunities and help students access the benefits of post-secondary education. And then they cite where this wording is from. In 1994, Congress amended the Higher Education Act and created the William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program. This program increased the government's ability to directly lend money to students. As a result, the student loan system shifted from one mostly involving private lenders to one in which the U.S. government became the primary creditor of student loans. Let's not forget, at the end of the day, the Department of Education is a creditor. They are the biggest creditor in the United States, okay? Especially when it comes to student loans. To ensure that the student loans bolster rather than hamper economic opportunity, Congress provided the Secretary with a clear directive: offer students various loan repayment options, including some that tether the borrower's monthly payment to their income. Such plans are known as the income-driven repayment plan. Specifically, Congress enacted two statutory provisions requiring income-driven repayment plans. First, Congress requires the Secretary to offer income-based repayment plans. They give us the section that's connected to income-based repayment, USC 20 USC 1098E. And I'm actually going to go to show you guys, if you've never looked up law before, I'm going to show you exactly how to be able to read it, because you don't have to necessarily be, like overly savvy to find the information. Literally, I was not, but I started to learn and I found just a simpler way for myself to find information, okay? But I'm going to show you guys how I look it up. The IBR statute provides an income-based affordable repayment plan for federal student loan borrowers from whom paying their loans will be a financial hardship. Congress created the IBR to respond to the rising cost of college, a corresponding increase in student loan debt, and the increasing number of borrowers defaulting. Okay, so let me show you really quick how to find information when you're trying to find your income, your repayment plan, okay? But you don't know how to necessarily read the law, but I'm going to show you, okay, how I do it, simplified version. So basically what I do is I highlight, when I'm reading lawsuits, I'll highlight the section of law, okay, that they are citing, because I want to know more information about it. You can do that up here as well. All of this information here where it's got the Biden versus Nebraska, highlight all of that. Just plug it into Google, hit enter, and it'll bring up the information for it. Same thing here with the General Education Provisions Act right there, Higher Education Act, all of that. You can put that in Google. So let's go, okay? All right, so we're going to go to Google. And we're just going to paste in what we just copied, and we're going to hit enter, okay? So what you see and I like Cornell Law. I like Cornell Law, and I like govinfo.gov. These are my two go-tos when I'm looking up any type of case law or any type of statute. This is what I'll go to, okay? So we'll click here. And this is where the information is. It'll give you everything that you need to know about income-based repayment. So if you want to go back and you want to read about it, and then to kind of reference anything that is in the lawsuit, if there's any language that is in the lawsuit, then you can just reference. It's like, oh, okay, I see that there. So it says the IBR statute provides an income-based affordable repayment plan for federal student loan borrowers for whom paying their full loans will be a financial hardship. Now, this has been removed due to the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, but we'll get into that. I don't want to speak ahead. All right, but we know that we are in the right section. 20 USC 1098E talks about income-based repayment, okay? All right, let's keep going because we'll come back to that statute in just a second, okay? All right, so we're going to scroll down and we're going to get here to number 38, okay? Congress used mandatory language when setting out the Secretary's requirement to offer an IBR plan, saying the Secretary shall carry out a program under which a borrower who has a partial financial hardship may elect during any period the borrower has the partial financial hardship to have the borrower's aggregate monthly payment for all such loans not exceed a payment formula set by the statute. 20 USC 1098 EB. Okay. So that means we're back into the income-based repayment. But the way you take a look at it, so we know that here is saying, all right, let's highlight it again so that way you have an understanding. Okay. If you don't know how to read it. So we know that we are in our title, okay? So we've got 20 USC 1098B. So 20 USC 1098E is, let me go back. 20 USC 1098 EB7, okay? We know that we are in 20 USC 1098E, but we want to be in B7, okay? So what we're gonna do, because, and then we pay attention to how our letters look as well. Because if it's a capitalized letter, it's important. Lowercase, important. So we want to make sure that we see exactly how the lettering is. Okay. All right. So we're gonna go back. So we know we're looking for EB7, all lowercase. Okay. So we got 1098EA. Okay, but we don't need A. It's EB7. So we're gonna scroll down. Now, even though we see a B here, remember ours is the small b, the lowercase b. All right. All right. So here we go. So here's our B. So we go back up. 20 USC 1098E, not A, B, and then we're going to go down to 7. 1, 2, 3, and then we have little subs 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So now we know we're in our 1098E B7. And it says the secretary shall repay or cancel any outstanding balance of principal and interest due on all loans made under Part B or D. Just go back to make sure that's where we are. Yep. Here we go. All right, so where was we at? Congress provides the secretary must cancel borrower's outstanding principal interest due if they ever elect to participate in IBR, and once they have made qualifying payments for a period not to exceed 25 years, and then they give us that, okay? So when you go back, you'll be able to see for a period of time prescribed not to exceed 25 years, okay? So you'll be able to see that so that way you know you're in the right space, all right? And that's just how you can read it, but as we continue, I'll show you some other stuff as well, because I'm like, I got to know how to read this. I have to come up with my own way to kind of simplify it, okay? All right, so the Higher Education Act provides 5 types of payments, including payments pursuant to the IBR plan that count as qualifying payments for the purpose of qualifying for debt cancellation. The department has similarly acknowledged that it has a mandatory duty to offer IBR to borrowers. Then they give us the federal regulation, okay? The department does not believe that sunsetting the IBR plan is permitted by 493C of the Higher Education Act, which authorized the income-based repayment plan. Now, again, if you take and you highlight this, plug it into Google, it'll get you to that section of the Higher Education Act. Let me show you right quick. And this is me. This is how I had to start learning the law, and then actually what law am I actually reading, okay? So we're just going to highlight 493CB. All right, and I know that's not too much information to have to go on, but we put that there. Okay. All right, so it's going to give you this because it's connected to that, but we want to get into the Higher Education Act. So I told you guys I like either GovInfo or Cornell Law. So we'll go here. All right, of course it wants to start at the middle. Okay. Now, sometimes you can do in the magnifier up here. There's a magnifier here. You can click on that and it'll get you the information, but sometimes that magnifier just doesn't work. You know, not all the time is real good. So we know that we are going to section 493 because that's what it says, okay? Permitted by section 493CB of the Higher Education Act. So 493CB, capital C, lowercase b, okay? So we're gonna go back. And right here in the Higher Education Act, you can see where it gives us all the sections. All right, so you just scroll down till we get to section 493. Okay, oops, I went too fast. And there's B, okay? Now we got 493C, okay? So that's where we're at, income-based repayment. So we know that this section is where we need to be, section 493C, 20 USC 1098E, income-based repayment, okay? All right? Okay. All right, so let's go back. Okay, all right. Okay, so the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the One Big Beautiful Bill upon enactment ended any requirement that borrowers have to demonstrate partial financial hardship. So that's what I was speaking about earlier. Partial financial hardship is no longer a requirement to be enrolled or to qualify to enter into income-based repayment. With the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act on the 4th of July, that is what was removed, okay? All right, so second, Congress requires the Secretary to create and implement an income contingent repayment plan. They tell you when the ICR statute was passed, also what it mandates, and again, 20 USC 1087 ED1D. Now, this one's a little bit longer one. Okay, so let me show you something, okay? So let's go into this. Sorry, I try to keep my little notes here. So let me show you right quick, because sometimes when you're looking stuff up, you may not necessarily know your title but you know your section, okay? So right here, we know we got our section 1087 ED. So let's go back here. So let's say that you were here, okay? And like, okay, I know what my section is because we see the section is right here, but maybe I don't know what the part, I don't know the subchapter, I don't know the chapter, I don't know any of this, okay? But because it's here, hang on, let me go back. Because it's here, so it's giving us our 20. So we know 20 USC, but we're gonna go back. So we know we are in the right area of the US code. But we're gonna go back to Title 20. So we'll start here, because that's our title. But we don't know the chapter. But based off us knowing the section, because our section is right here, the 1087 ED1D. Okay, so they gave me that. All right. So we're gonna go back. So we know we got to go for 1087E. Okay, so let's go back. I don't know what it is. I don't know the chapter, but this here is giving us our sections. You see all of our sections on the end? So we're gonna look for 1087 ED. Where is the range for 1087 ED? So that's 981. All right, so we know 1001 to 1161, then it gives us these as well. So we're gonna click here because we know this is the range that we're in, 1087. Okay, so we're gonna click, so we're in chapter 28. All right, so I know I'm in chapter 28, title 20, chapter 28. I don't know what my subchapter is, but I know what my section is. My section is 1087E. So we're gonna go through here again. We're gonna look for it. Okay, 1070 to 1099D. Cool. I know I'm in subchapter 4, student assistance. All right. I don't know what my part is, but I know that my section is 1087E. So we're going to look again. We're going to look down here at our sections, okay? So we've got 1087-51 through 1087-58. But here we've got, but this doesn't have the letter at the end. So we're like, okay, we're going to keep going because we see we got 1087 here multiple times. So we want to verify where we range at. 1087A through 1087J. So we know we range in between because we're E. So we're going to click here. All right, here we go, 1087E. All right, so now we are in our section, okay? But ours is 1087ED1D. And you see we've got a lowercase letter, a number, and then a capital letter. So we're going ED1D. All right, so let's go back. So we're looking for lowercase d because we're already in E, but we need that lowercase d. And remember, I told you that can change here, so but we want to just pay attention to our lowercase letter. And this may be, for some people, this may be difficult, but for me, it worked for me, okay? So again, we are going to ED1. We'll start there, ED1. All right, so let's go back. So we're gonna go look for D, lowercase d. Okay, keep going. Keep going. So we haven't came across that lowercase d. Hopefully that doesn't hurt anybody. There we go. ED1. Okay, let's go back. Let's make sure. D1, and we want the capital D. All right. So even though we're in D1, but we want D1 capital D. And there we go. Before June 30, 2028, an ICR repayment plan with varying annual repayment amounts. Let's just go back to verify what this says here. Mandates the Secretary to offer a borrower loan of an income contingent repayment plan with varying annual repayment amounts based on the income borrow. Okay, so we know we made it. We made it, okay? But that's just me. That's just how I started to learn not only how to read the lawsuits, but also how to find the information as well, because we can read the lawsuits all day, but if we don't know how to get to the sections of the law, then we're just reading lawsuits. But we got to be able to understand where we are and how to get to the information, all right? But it says the department has also acknowledged its mandatory obligation to offer ICR to direct loan borrowers. Again, more information that you can go back and look at. Explaining that certain changes were being made to meet the department's statutory obligations under the Higher Education Act to offer borrowers an ICR repayment plan. Like the IBR statute, the ICR statute provides that the payment term for ICR shall not exceed 25 years. And again, that's all there in ED 1D. So let's go back. Let's see if we see that, to not exceed 25 years. Yep, there we go. Indeed, not to exceed 25 years. All right. So, but that's just how you go back and read it. So basically what this is doing is just giving us an overview of income driven repayment plans. So this is what they're doing. They're breaking down, but they're getting to what the point is basically what this is. But I have to give you a history, and this is what they're doing. I have to give the judge a history, whoever's going to be reading this complaint, a judge. I have to give you the history of the repayment plans because my story is connected to a repayment plan and what the Department of Education is doing. So basically this is just what it is, okay? More information about what is taking place, okay? So it tells us, and we're gonna just keep going. It tells us each plan has different characteristics that vary meaningfully with respect to the calculation of monthly payments, the length of the repayment term, and when the loans are forgiven after a certain amount of time in repayment, and the amount of discretionary income that factors into the equation. Implementing the commands of IBR statute, the Secretary created the income-based repayment plan. And implementation, the commands of the ICR statute, the Secretary created 3 plans, and they go on more to tell you about the other ones. Pursuant to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, for existing borrowers, the ICR Pay and Save will sunset and no longer be available as of July 1st, 2028, whereas the IBR plan will remain available indefinitely. And they give you the publication that you can go back and read. In addition to its statutory and regulatory obligations, the department has contractual obligations to ensure that borrowers can access these plans. When a borrower first takes out a student loan, they sign a legally enforceable promissory note with the Department of Education. Now, if you are someone and you don't know how to find your promissory note, not every borrower's promissory note is in their student aid account. But first things first, log into studentaid.gov. When you log into studentaid.gov, you're going to click on My Documents, and that is where you'll be able to see your master promissory note. If it is not there, you can always request it directly from the loan server, request it from the Department of Education as well, okay? All right, so in addition to identifying the borrower's obligation, the contract identifies borrower's rights under the contract. Now, there is a generic master promissory note that you're able to read on the student aid website just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like and what it entails. But it does on the back, or not only even on the back, further down in the master promissory notes, it speaks about your rights as a borrower, terms and conditions, and a whole lot of information, okay? These rights include the ability to repay the loans under one of these different IDR plans. Indeed, the contract, and you see that word contract, includes an entire section on the different plans and crystallize that under an IDR plan, your required monthly payment amount is based on your income and family size instead of being based on your loan debt, interest rate, and repayment period as under a traditional repayment plan. They tell you the 4 statutorily mandated IDR plans have been a lifeline in preventing student loan borrowers from default. This saves borrowers from the punitive impacts of such a default. So we know punitive is the punishments. What happens when you go into default, including the potential, and they go in to tell us what those punishments look like if you default on a federal student loan. Potential seizure of tax refunds, wages, or government benefits, amongst other things as well. When a borrower satisfies the statutory payment obligations under an IDR plan, Congress provided that their loan should automatically be canceled with no further action by the borrower. Prior to March 2021, when borrowers satisfied the statutory requirements for loan cancellation under one of the plans, namely enrolled in an IDR plan for 20 or 25 years, the canceled amount was typically treated as taxable income. Okay, more law you can go look at. However, in March 2021, through the American Rescue Plan of 2021, Congress provided that no federal student loan cancellation shall be a taxable event for federal income tax purposes for discharges occurring after December 31st, 2020 and before January the 1st, 2026. What's important about this is because due to the fact, and I'm going to be speaking ahead on this, is that when it comes to the Department of Education, if you go back and you read the lawsuit, the status reports, you'll be able to see how backlogged the Department of Education is with applications. And what that means is that if we have a backlog of applications and we have borrowers who are legally have met the terms of their repayment plan, who should have their student loans discharged, if these loans are not discharged until after December 31st, 2025, then these borrowers are basically set up for having to pay taxes. That income that is discharged or the student loan that's going to be discharged will be counted as could be counted as income depending on what state that they're in. And there's nothing to protect that because under the American Rescue Plan Act, that was a temporary tax provision. So it was a temporary pause in a sense, where borrowers were not having to make any type of there was no tax bomb in a sense, or any borrowers whose loans were forgiven during that particular time period. But with the department, not getting these loans discharged, then that's what the implications is, okay? But borrowers who satisfy the requirement for loan cancellation through the end of 2025 are entitled by statute to this tax treatment, the consequences of which are extremely significant for individuals. Although historically it was difficult for borrowers to track their progress toward debt cancellation under the IDR plans, the Biden administration introduced a tracker on the borrowstudentaid.gov accounts that shows their numbers of qualifying payments they have accrued and the number of qualifying payments until their loans are eligible for cancellation. Now, this was a tracker that was there prior to what, maybe last month or so, maybe longer than that, but that tracker is no longer available. I do have a guide on my website where I actually show you another way that you're able to look at the information. Now, as far as when it's going to be back up and on the website, we don't know. There isn't any kind of guidance in a sense that tells you, anything as far as that. But we're going to stop here because I don't want this video to become super long. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to finish breaking down the rest of this lawsuit. We'll go into public service loan forgiveness and also get to the factual allegations of the complaint. All right, I'll see you on part 2. Or no, part 3. We already did, this is part 2. We're going to go to part 3.